I also believe now, after all the work I've done in this field, I actually believe that animals are, and everything else in nature, I guess you'd have to say, um, is more innately intelligent. Not innately. They're just more, they're more aware of past, present, and future, past lives, and also of uh, hidden truths. They see everything. They know everything. And we would be that way too, Marla, if we had not been conditioned. I
Yeah.
mean, we came out of the chute with people going, "Oh, honey, that's just make believe."
Yeah.
And nobody was trying to be mean to us. They were trying to help us. They wanted us to be logical and they want us to fit in. And they.
Today, I am super excited to have Marta Williams on the program. Trying to pull up her bio here. And Marta is, as a child, I'm just going to read what she wrote because she wrote this in first person. As a child, I loved animals, but didn't communicate consciously with them. I didn't think I was intuitive or that I could do animal communication, but I always knew how animals and people felt. I learned to communicate intuitively with animals by taking classes and practicing, wow, starting in 1898, 19, not 18, 1989. Marta's BS is in resource conservation from the University of California at Berkeley, and she has an MS in biology and systematic ecology from San Francisco State. She worked as an environmental scientist, studied wildlife in the field, rehabilitated ill and injured wildlife. As an academic, it was hard to accept it and even harder to believe in animal communication. But she didn't just feel like she was doing enough to help the animals and the earth. So in 1989, she went on a vision quest to seek guidance from the realm of spirit. It became clear during her quest that she was supposed to follow the path of animal communication. So she has dedicated herself to that field, and she has written 4 books. And I have one of the books right here. It's actually her first book. This will all be on the show notes. This is Learning Their Language. This is an amazing book, so I suggest you check them all out. We'll give her website at the end. And you can find her books on animal communication on all the online bookstores. And I am really excited to have you here. Marta is not only an animal communicator, but she also helps others become in touch with their intuitive selves and be able to communicate with animals and people and really the spiritual world. So thank you for coming to the program, Marta.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be here. And yes, I teach people. I also help people become professional if they want to do this part-time or full-time. And I also help people learn how to teach others so they can
Right.
pass it on.
Which is really beautiful because I can't think of one person that wouldn't want to do this kind of work, you know? So it's just jumping in and practicing. Your book is full of exercises. And not only that, it's full of inspiration, like you can do this and you can trust this. And I love that. And learning ways on how you can work with animals and begin to trust that what you're hearing is definitely
Well,
true.
Marla, my books are a little different than other people because I realized that there was something missing in the literature for this subject. And what was missing was a book at the time I wrote this that actually said, here's how you do it. There was lots of books by people going, here's how I did
I
it.
do it. Yeah.
Here's what I did. Isn't this incredible? Which it is incredible. But you're still left going, yeah, but how do I do that? How would I do it?
Right, right.
And that was the complaint I had about my favorite book in this field is Kinship with All Life by J. Allen Boone.
Oh, I think I read that in your book. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Boone. And he's long gone. He wrote that book in the 40s, nobody really knew about that book, but I got my hands on it and in a library, and it was buried in the shelves. And when I read it, I went, "Oh my God, this is the most incredible book I've ever read," and but then you get to the end of the book and he's talking about how he learned how to talk intuitively from this movie star dog, and it's just like he was a writer in Hollywood, and it's just incredible. And then, but then at the end, you're like, okay, Jay Allen, but how the hell do you do this?
Yes, yes.
So I wanted to do two things in my books, and I've written four books total. One, excuse me, my voice is weird. Um, One is to really explain to people how to do this and how it works, and take the mystery out of it, because even though it is essentially mystery, it's what I call magic that works. The fact of the matter is that you can learn how to do it, and it's not incredibly difficult. It's not, it can be done. And I've taught thousands of people because I have traveled all over the world teaching. I've taught thousands of people online or in person, and I know everybody can learn how to do this.
Well, it's interesting because, I've interviewed a lot of psychic and mediums, and they say exactly the same thing. Anyone can do this. And sure, some people had grandmothers or something, kind of ran down in their lineage, but it's interesting how, as you talk about in your book, indigenous cultures, they do this all the time. The kids do it. And it's not only animals, it's the plants, and it's Mother Earth, and it's everything, every living thing, which everything is living. And we've just gotten so away from that. And that's why I was so excited to interview today to talk about this really, really important subject, because animals can teach us so lot. So what did inspire you to start this journey of sharing and learning and listening to animals?
Well, I always say be careful what you ask for, because because I was doing environmental consulting, and I mean I could have been making at least 300,000 a
Hmm.
year if I stayed in that field, because I would have been cleaning up Superfund sites, and I'd be like the big heat project manager, and but I said that's just a Band-Aid. I mean, they don't even, half the time they don't even clean up those sites when they say they're doing it. So I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want to, this isn't what I need to do for the earth. And so I just said, what should I be doing? I mean, I didn't know I was asking the universe. But basically I said, hey, universe, what should I be doing? And the universe is like, oh, okay, here, do this. And I got led, as you said from my introduction, I talk about a vision quest. And I went on this quest, and on that quest was when I learned from the people who were the trip leaders, who were my friends. We were just talking about different things, and they said, well, there's somebody who teaches how to do communicating with animals intuitively. Did you know that? And I'm like, no, you mean you can really do it? You mean it's really possible? And I was just gobsmacked. I was like, are you kidding me? So then it was like the whole vision quest was all about that, and all these eagles came and landed all around me, and all this shite happened, and I just went, okay, I think I need to go do this. I think this is it. And so I pursued it, but quite frankly, I didn't learn how to do it from the person who was teaching it at that time, which was a long time ago. And so I got together with some people from the class, and we just formed a group, and we just practiced together, which is really the best way to do it.
Yeah, I love that
Practice in a
idea.
group. And when I teach, I have my students work with each other to practice, because that's how you learn how to do it. But you also need to have a lot of support. So I do give a lot of support, because that's how I learn best, when somebody's going, good job, go for it. Clicker training, right? And then the other thing that I do is that I have done is I made it my goal to find the way that other people wouldn't have to go through all the angst that I went through to learn how to do this. I just went, there's got to be an easy way to teach this.
Mhm.
There has to be a way to teach this where people can get it right away.
Yeah, not to mention, I think that in today's world, depending on what circle you run, it's much more accepted too. I mean,
Yes,
back
yes.
when you were learning,
It wasn't. It
just
was,
people
oh,
were
you're
kind of
Dr.
glazed here.
Doolittle, huh? They go, oh, you're Dr. Doolittle, huh? Like that kind of thing. I mean, that still happens, and one still gets ridiculed if one decides to do this because it's still viewed as something quintessentially female
Yeah,
and therefore not as valuable, and also something made up and silly. And you'll find that people in trainers, for example, don't want to admit that they do this because they don't want people to think they're ridiculous.
yeah,
Horse trainers, dog trainers. So it's not like the um tarnish has come off of this. It's still there. But compared to 1989, it's way better.
right, right.
Yeah, and a
Yeah,
lot of people are gaining the realization that you have and that you were talking about that this is about more than just animals. This is about everything in life.
yes, being interconnected, right. I always tell people after they've either gone, what pops into my mind is a psychedelic journey or a breathwork journey, whatever they might have, and a huge, really big spiritual transformative experience. Be very careful with who you share it with because people love to muddy the waters. But anyway, moving on. Can you start with like maybe you have a million stories, but could you start with one or two of like your favorite stories of when you've worked with an animal and
Yeah, sure. Um, and I was just going to say that, what I learned is that I I only talk to people who I think are supportive and interested. If
yeah,
they're not, I don't have time for them. And
exactly.
and I don't and if they think poorly of me, I realize that if I think poorly of me, that's going to be reflected back to me. But if I think I'm doing something great, it just really doesn't matter what everybody else is thinking about it. So
Yeah.
I kind of let go of all that, but it took a while. Um, so one of the stories that it was a pivotal case for me.
Marta, can you scoot back just a little bit so we can see? There you go. There you go.
Yeah, is that better?
Yeah, that's great. Perfect.
It was a pivotal case for me because it came at a time when I was in the middle of deciding, can't remember when I decided to do this as a vocation and stop doing what I was doing. And that's a whole other
Mhm.
story. But I mean, I stopped what I was doing cold turkey. And I had been offered a new environmental job, and I went, no, never mind, I don't want it anymore. And I went off doing this with no savings, nothing,
Wow.
cold turkey. Anyway, so this lady called me about her horse, and she was in West Virginia, I think. And her horse was being uncooperative and dangerous when she would try to put a bit in his mouth and a bridle on. And all these people that were helping her were telling her to do all these really bad things, like tie him to the fence or tie him to a, ox, or I mean, just all these crazy things they were telling her to do. And she said, well, I don't want to do any of that stuff. And so somehow she found me and she had me talk to the horse. And when I talked to the horse said, look, I'm not a bad boy. I would really like to cooperate. But when she comes near me with that bridle, I can't stand it. The pain is too much. Okay, so I went back to her and I said, well, I get that this is an issue of pain, that there's a problem with his teeth. That's what I'm getting,
Right.
which isn't uncommon in horses. And that's not revelation or anything. And she goes, well, I had 3 different veterinarians check his teeth and they all say they're fine. And I'm sitting there going, oh, shite, what do I do now, boss? I said, okay, here's the thing. It's bottom line, you should get a massage. You should get my friend Lorinda to come do the massage because she's the best. I thought she lived close, but she didn't. Anyway, so I gave
A massage on the horse.
yeah.
You weren't telling the people client, you need to go.
No. But I still felt like there was some kind of pain somehow,
Yeah.
even if the vets didn't find anything. So, but I didn't say it quite that way. And you can't really maintain that what's going on just using intuition. But in this case, I kind of stuck to my guns and I said, well, get a massage. Because maybe it's something else, but you need to get somebody to check out and see if he's in pain. And vets aren't as good at doing that. So she called my friend, and my friend who lived far away said, okay, I'll come up there. And she did go up there, and she knows everything. And she called me up and said, I can't believe this horse has the hardest neck I have ever encountered. Like the muscles were rock. She said, and she worked on him for 3 days.
Oh my gosh, what an angel.
And then she got a vet who's an equine dentist that she knew to come check the horse. And it turned out he had a horrible problem in his mouth that all the other vets had missed.
Wow.
I don't know how they missed it, but they missed it. And one of them was big enough to say, look, I missed it, so please let me come and see what you're doing and watch what you're doing. So
Wow.
but that really told me something. It told me what I tell my students: you have to be true to your data. You have to be true to what you get. It doesn't mean you ever say, I know that what I got is right, because that's the flip side of that is you think just because you got it, it's right. And that's not the way it works either.
Right.
The way it works is got an intuitive impression. It could be, those impressions could be, you got a feeling, you got a picture, you got words, those are the common ways. And then what you have to do is say, well, this is what I got. This is exactly the way it came to me. Does that mean anything to you? And you say that to the owner or the person involved. And then you let it go. But you don't say, well, I know the horse has pain because he told me it hurt. No, you can't make that claim.
Yes, understood.
You can make the claim that you got the impression that he had pain and that it would be worthwhile to find a cheap way to check that out, and not cheap, but an inexpensive way to check that out is a massage, a good massage person.
Right.
Every time a good massage person can find the pain in a dog or an animal or a cat, a horse, they can find it. If
Have
there's
you heard the Masterson method?
Yeah. I've studied it. I was actually going to do horse massage.
Wow. I'm getting ready to take a class in that, and I'm
Yeah, it's great. I think Masterson is great. The technique that I like the best is Reagan Golub.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of him?
I haven't. But
He's out of Idaho, and he's not that well known, but he does do courses.
right. I'll have to check
And
that.
yeah, Reagan Golub, Golib.
Golib, probably. Yeah.
No, it's B, Golub.
Golib. Okay. Golib.
It's Leb. And Reagan's techniques, and I studied a couple different techniques and T-touch, I didn't get certified in anything.
Right.
But comparing all the different techniques that I tried, Reagan's are the best.
I'm just writing that
I
down.
did Tom Mays too, and I like him.
So, I read where you said, and I so agree with this, that animals tend to be more, oh, how do I say this? just unconditional love and open, and they just are often more loyal and loving than, as much I hate to say it, as that people are because of our all of our conditioning, actually. Why do you think animals are capable of such unconditional love?
Well, it's true, first of all. And there's a great book about this called And the Animals Will Teach You by Margot Lasher. One of the better books you'll ever read.
Okay.
She talks about empathy in animals, and they don't turn off their empathy. That's the difference between us and them. They cannot and do not turn off their empathy. And,
Margot Lasher.
right, Lasher.
Yes, and what you see is what you get, I think
So,
that,
but I also believe now, after all the work I've done in this field, I actually believe that animals are, and everything else in nature, I guess you'd have to say, is more innately intelligent. Not innately. They're just more they're more aware of past, present, and future, past lives, and also of uh, hidden truths. They see everything. They know everything. And we would be that way too, Marla, if we had not been conditioned. I
yeah,
mean, we came out of the chute with people going, "Oh, honey, that's just make believe."
yeah,
We can't, and nobody was trying to be mean to us. They were trying to help us. They wanted us to be logical, and they want us to fit in, and
right.
and I mean, everybody told me, "Don't quit your day job. Don't do this. Don't go." Oh, please don't go do animal communication. It's so lame and stupid. And why do you want to do that? And oh my God, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, you do. You get kind of, I hate to say beat up a little bit, but just very, very conditioned. I hope that's changed. That's changing too.
well, no, it hasn't completely changed, but the point is that whether it changes or not, what I realized is, it's your loss.
Right,
It
right.
has nothing to do with me. It's your loss if you don't recognize this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So you talk about feeling stronger connections with some specific animals other than others. So when does someone recognize when they have a special spiritual bond with an animal?
Yeah, that I'm not sure about when you recognize it. It might not necessarily be right away, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But at a certain point in time, you're going to realize that one of your animals is like really special to you. And you think about, oh, if that animal goes, I don't know what I'm going to do.
yeah. I have two of them lying on the floor right next to me right now.
And you just start to realize that some animals are more special than others. And it may feel uncomfortable to see that, but it's true.
Yeah.
And I believe those are the animals that you probably have had many past lives with.
Yes, yes. Which I want to talk about that. Can you tell us the story of Jenny, the Terrier? Cairn Terrier, C-A-R.
Karen Terrier.
Yeah, and the profound experience that you had after her passing, and how that kind of shaped your
Sure.
perspective on the afterlife.
Sure. Um, she was my mom's dog, and my mom got to the point where she couldn't take care of her, so she needed a lot of care. She was elderly, Cairn Terrier. They're not very big, they're really cute. Um, anyway, she got to the point where she was done, and I knew she was dying, and I decided to take her into the vet because I didn't want to prolong any discomfort she might have. Um, and just briefly, she had stopped eating, stopped moving. It was clear that she couldn't really care for herself anymore and didn't want to keep going. And that's how I make a decision about putting an animal down. And I just say, if it's really their time, I don't need to let them hang out if they're in discomfort. And she was in a little discomfort, so I just decided to put her down. If they're not, I let them die naturally. So that's my thing. That's how I decide. Anyway, so I took her to the vet. Vet technique, she actually died on the table. The vet didn't have to inject her. And then I left, and you can always take them home and bury them, but at that point I didn't for whatever reason. And then the vet tech called me after I got home and said, after you left, there was swinging doors on the exam room. The swinging doors opened by themselves, slowly, and then shut just as slowly, all by themselves. And she said, and I know that was Jenny leaving the room on her own, her spirit, and she wanted you to know that she's able to take care of herself now.
Isn't
I
it
know.
interesting how people don't believe until they have an experience like that? And so many people have experiences like that. They see a light going up into, I mean, with not only animals, but even with people. And
Yep.
it teaches you so much. So Marta, what do you feel? I work a lot with children, and this summer we're doing an equine camp called Sacred Hoof Prints, which I'm very excited about. You would love it because we're bringing in a lot of shamanic tools, and we may not use some of the language depending on depending on where the parents are in the whole
But it doesn't matter. Kids will get it.
exactly
You
kids
don't have
get
to
it.
use the language. They'll get it.
Yeah, yeah.
You just talk about how animals are really smart and they know everything and they'll get it.
Right. So how do you feel that if if the world accepted that we are all interconnected and that we can intuitively connect with not only these animals, but really anything. And we taught our children that they don't need to be taught, but we kept them remembering that as they got older. How do you think that that would change the world?
That's a good way to say it. Well, I mean, I think the dynamic between humans and the rest of nature would have to change if we did that, because everybody would recognize that animals can feel pain. Animals are super intelligent. The rivers, have consciousness. I mean, it would mean that you have to take everything into account, as opposed to do everything just for yourself, which is what's happening right now. And
Right.
everything is supposed to serve you. It would be more like everything is a community. So you wouldn't take advantage. Now, does that mean that everybody would be vegan? I'm not vegan. Um, and I feel that it's tricky to envision that world right now because we're not there.
Right, absolutely
So
not.
the best that I can suggest is that we should have a world where there's as little suffering as possible. That's what I would shoot for, and then you can kind of go from there to see if you want to do completely vegan, which I don't think is necessary. For example, I think if you raise chickens and they're happy and you use their eggs, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right, right,
Same thing with goats. If you raise goats and you use a little bit of their milk to make cheese and stuff, I don't think there's anything wrong with that if they're happy and they're well taken care of.
right,
So I just don't see the problem with doing that kind of thing.
right.
So
I totally agree. But how do you feel that once again, the children of the world, our next generation, do you feel like that it would open them up so much to be able to keep that in their heart and soul and believe in
yeah,
intuition
yeah,
that they would be, it sounds like what you're saying is that they would be more about service and about
yes,
caring about Mother Earth versus just caring about
right,
themselves.
right,
Really,
right.
yeah,
Like the whole permaculture movement, everything would be kind of like that,
right,
all around the earth. That'd be great. I'll sign up for that
yeah,
one.
yeah. So, Marta, if people at home want to give it a try, they need to go out and get your books, absolutely for sure. But can you just give us a couple of ideas, or not ideas, but ways that people can begin to start intuitively connecting with their animals?
Well, one thing for people to be aware of is that when you talk to your animal out loud or think to them, they get everything you're saying. And they understand it the same way a person would. So you don't have to talk down to them or try to simplify it. Just say it the way you would say it to a person. They will get that, and it can be very helpful to give them information, keep them informed, and have conversations with them, just like you will with people. Also, people can start to ask them for things like, could you please, be nicer to, another dog in the house. He's really upset and it's really upsetting me. Could you just ignore him? You don't have to love him. I just want you to like that. So you start making requests and see what happens. And you'll notice that a lot of times you're going to see results from doing that. Another thing that people can do is just practice receiving. And you could just go to your animal and say, is there anything you want me to know? And then have a piece of paper and a pencil and write down anything that pops in your head. The trick with that, Marla, is that one has to accept it completely and take the very first thing and not try to
Right.
fix it or make it make sense. You just take it and write it down, If you hear, Mom, I love you, then that's what you got. And that was their message.
I love when you talk about validation, though. For example, if a person calls you about their pet, or you tell them that you'd like to, what is maybe an issue that's going on. And so you do your work and you write it down, and then you go back and you've had it, you yourself have had it validated. Well, at this point, probably millions of times. And that just gives you more confidence in the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
in the whole process.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the name of the game is you have to find a way to be confident
Right.
and find a way to get over performance anxiety and stage fright. I
Mm.
mean, it's not an easy challenge, but with the techniques that I've developed, if you follow those techniques, you will be successful. My students who are in my master program, I have a program for teaching people how to do this if they want to do it as a part-time or full-time business, or for their friends or for the rescue group they belong to, whatever. My techniques are really foolproof as far as if you
Right.
follow them, it'll work. And my students get about, usually 85 to 100% accurate on every case study they do.
It was funny last night. I was reading your book, and I've had other animal communicators, and like I said, I work with horses, and of course my doggies all the time. But one of my dogs was having problems walking down our stairs, and we have a lot of stairs at our house. And I started this was at 3 in the morning, by the way. I started, talking to her, Daisy, and took her back upstairs and took her out to potty, but she said she didn't want to potty. And I just basically heard, I just want to go lay down in my big brown chair. So we went down, put her in the big brown chair. I crawled in the bed next to it and just slept the rest of the night. Well, was fine the next day. But it was, I mean, just reading your book just gave me like she knows exactly what I'm saying, it just gave me so much confidence. And I
That's
felt,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, it was really great. So Marta, how have you as a person changed? I know you've been doing this for a long time, but how have you changed in
Well, I
you?
I can tell you one change that happened for me and that happens for people who do this is you become more intuitive and you start to choose a more intuitive path in life, because intuition means your inner knowledge is coming out and going, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, and you start to pay attention to it more. You can't help it because you're training yourself to pay attention to it. And then what happens is you start paying attention, you start following it. So I believe I'm at the point now where all I need is one red flag. And then I go, oh, red flag. Okay, see ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. You know, I just recognize a problem as soon as it pops up.
Right, right. It's interesting how you become, as you could become more aware. I've personally gotten into every morning I meditate, not for that long, maybe for 15 minutes. I pull out my animal cards and a few tarot and light candles, and but then I just sit and I just listen. And it's amazing the things that just come to me intuitively, to help me throughout my day. And I'm just astonished. Usually I start crying for some reason or the other. So that even is more validation, right? But you're right. If people would just stop and listen and do it regularly, consistency is really, really important too. Yeah. Wow. So
Yeah, and I also, when I started, I didn't really believe in past lives or reincarnation or any of I didn't believe in that animals were more intelligent than people. I do now. I think they're way more evolved and more intelligent than people are.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about reincarnation because I swear my other little puppy, Cosmo,
What kind of dogs do you have?
Labradoodles. Yeah, is part reincarnation of my Dakota that passed 4 or 5 years ago. Let's talk about animals and reincarnation. What is your view on that? Not only what is your view, what have you found out with your work?
Well, I believe it's absolutely possible. And I believe that it's really hard to prove it. There's things that are easy to prove. If you ask an animal, what do you love to do? And the animal goes, I love to go swimming. And then you say, okay, well, where do you do that? And tell me more. And they say, well, I go with my friend Walter, and he's a little white, fluffy dog. And we go to the lake, and my dad throws frisbees in the water for us. And we go in the car and we do it we do it every weekend.
You get a lot,
Well, you can get a lot if you ask more questions. And
right?
that's
Do
one
you
of
have
my,
your eyes closed while you're doing this and breathing
yes.
deeply, or okay, you
Yeah.
center
No,
yourself,
I'm not breathing deeply so much, but I do
right,
my eyes closed just so I don't have any distractions.
right, right.
I used to also put earplugs in all the time, but now I only do earplugs if I know there's going to be a lot of noise.
Right.
Anyway, if you got all that because you asked the questions, what do you do? Where do you go? Who do you go with? When do you go? And then you got all that data and you came back, you haven't gotten it validated yet, and you come to the person and you go, this is what I got. They're going to go, oh my God, how the
Yes,
hell did you
yes,
know that?
yeah,
Okay, that's valid. That is validation with a capital V.
right, right.
That's proof because you didn't know the dog. You haven't seen a picture. You don't know where they live. You don't even know if there's a lake there. Come on. How
Mhm.
could you just make that? How could you cold read that?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
It's just
There was a magician. There's this guy named Randy the Magician who, rest in peace, is gone now. But he used to really rag on psychics, and he used to say that everybody was doing a cold reading, just making it up from what they could see from the person. But we're doing readings without seeing the person,
right, right.
and sometimes I don't even get a picture. I just go, "What kind of dog is it?" Like you told me what kind of dog yours is, and I wouldn't get more than that.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Oh, yeah, I definitely see. I mean, so much is long distance now, even like past life regressions and all of that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
But here's the deal with past lives. You can sort of prove it with stories. And I'll give you an example. This One of my students told me the story in class. I just about dropped on the floor and said, "Oh, can I please use your story?" She went to go buy a horse and that she saw in the paper or something. And when she got there, the horse was really intimidated by the guy, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't need this. I don't need to deal with this." And she's starting to tell the guy, no, thank you, and walk out. And then she heard as she's walking out, but wait, you don't understand. I'm Timmy, some name. And she's like, what? Because that was the name of her pony that she and her
Oh
brother had had when
my
she was
God.
5 years old. And she's like, what? And so the guy left, and she went up to the horse and went, you're Timmy, huh? And she said, okay, if you want out of here, you have to get in that trailer right now. And she took him out to the trailer, and he just hopped in, right? And she loaded him in and said, I'll take him. And the guy goes, how the hell did you get him in the trailer without I can't remember what you call those, the pincher things you put on their
Yeah.
ear twitch. That's what they call them. How'd you get him in the trailer without an ear twitch? Something to make him do it, something mean, right? And she said, I just told him to get in. And so then about a week later, she had him in her field, and she had a picnic table in her field that she was sitting at. And she goes, so you're Timmy, huh? And the horse picks up his head, looks at her, comes over to the table, puts both feet on the picnic table, and bows down like this, and then
Wow.
goes back up. And she's sitting there going, holy shite, because
Right.
that was what she and her brother had trained that pony to do.
I know, I know. It's
And
just
that to
have a
me, and I have
personal
a bunch of
experience.
now
Oh, you do.
in my book Beyond Words, I have one whole chapter of stories like that,
Right, right.
where people went,
Me
I know
too.
it has, where they went, Marta, I know it has to be my animal come back because, and they would tell a story like that. And I'd go, you know what? That's very compelling. That's very compelling. I believe you, you know?
Absolutely. So, Marta, we need to wrap it up, but what would you like your listeners to take away from your story and the concept that we can have these relationships with these animals and how it can deepen our relations with relationships with our animals? And with that said, I just always go back to kindness. It's just about being kind. And if you're being kind to an animal and asking them these questions, but what would you like to end with or tell the listeners?
Well, I think people need to realize that animals are smarter than we are. So start asking them for their insight and their help,
Right.
because they'll give it to you, and then you'll see it will help you improve.
Mhm.
Um, Also for people to understand, it really and truly isn't hard to learn how to do this. You just have to have the right techniques, the right process, and you have to stick with it.
And
And
it's so simple.
it's
It's
pretty
really so
simple.
simple.
It's so simple, it's hard. It's one of those,
It's hard. Right,
Zen
right,
kind of things, right?
right.
It's like a Zen practice. Okay. You have to spend a little time getting it right, because it's hard. It's hard to, but it doesn't have to be frustrating and upsetting and emotionally challenging the way it was for me when I was learning how to do this. For years. I mean, for years I was struggling, you know?
Yeah,
So I've gotten it to the point where people can do this whole program in 6 months.
right. Well, what I find exciting, I mean, I don't know how many people actually would want to become animal communicators, but what a great career. Oh my gosh. But just to be more connected with their own animals. I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
that is so
you could
much.
take the program just so you have that going on,
Right, exactly. And that's
so
right.
you
Yeah,
really master I mean, it's a master program, so you master the ability, and then you can use it for whatever you want to use it for.
right, right. Love it. Well, Marta, thank you so much for coming on the show. I so appreciate it. And if people want to learn more about you and your books and your workshops, how would they do that?
Okay, so I have in-person workshops twice a year at my farm
Where's
in
your farm? Where do you live?
Northern California,
Oh, where?
Dobbins,
Oh,
near,
okay.
near Grass Valley, sort of.
Right, right, right.
Um, and so there's one coming up in May, and it's a 4-day intensive. And then I have online classes every month that
Okay,
people can take, and they can also join my online master program.
great.
And it's all described on my website, which is martawilliams.com.
Great. And
And I do consultations for people as well.
you still do that.
Anything, oh yeah, anything going on with their animals that they need help with, and I do work with lost animals also.
Right. I read that in your book, which is beautiful. Well, thank you. You're truly, oh my gosh, a gift to this world, to the animals
Thank you,
of the
Marla.
world. And I so appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you for the work that you do. It's
Well, you're
very,
very
very important.
welcome. You're very welcome. I couldn't do it without my animal babies for sure. Well,
Do
take
you
care.
also have horses, Marla?
I don't have horses myself. I work on two horse farms at ranches. They're most of them are Mustangs that have been adopted because they've been out where people are going to do bad things to them. And if necessary, rehabilitated. And we work with veterans and children and women. And
Nice.
yeah. So
My
I
last,
actually do this. I'm not really a well, I am not a horse handler. So I think that's what you guys call it. I'm really actually doing the spiritual component of it. So we bring in telepathy and intuition and
nice.
centered breathing, and then we go out and interweave it with our work with the horses.
That sounds brilliant.
Yeah, so we're very excited. Well, thank you. Hope maybe I can come up to Grass Valley and visit you. I would love that. I live in Southern California, but my heart's in Northern California. I used to live there. Well, take
Well,
care. Go
you'd
ahead.
be welcome to visit.
Thank you. Well, take care. Have a great rest of the afternoon,
You too.
and I'm sure I'll be in touch.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Marta.
Bye-bye.